Sheryl swoops fired and eats turd as WNBA stars choose Caitlyn Clark. Indiana Fever win free agency Loyola University basketball coach Cheryl swoop. She's under investigation accused of mistreating players. One of them is speaking out this morning, telling us why she wanted to transfer. Abs Lindsay Davis is here with the details. Good morning, Lindsay. Good morning. Lara Cheryl swoops was the first woman to ever sign with the WNBA. But this morning, the college coach is not only under fire, but under investigation after reports that the majority of her roster has decided to leave. They fired her. They didn't just replace Cheryl swoops, they kicked out. And why? Because of Caitlyn Clark. There's a lot of other going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be over there. Yeah, some minutiae going on around there. It's a lot. So you have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I want to this where I want to be. Months ago, Swoop sat on her high horse predicting doom for the Indiana Fever. She missed. Caitlyn Clark claimed nobody wanted to play in Indiana and confidently declared that no top talent would sign there. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. As always, appreciate your support. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Shout out to the 19. Let's go. So I wanted to do a little bit of a dive into the Fever roster, what that looks like now that we've gotten through the bulk of the free agency off season. We've seen a lot of changes fast forward to today, and the Fever just pulled off the biggest free agency move in WNBA history. And the way they came back the second game, it just makes you excited to, okay, I want to be a part of that. They didn't lay down and quit. They came back and actually tread to beat us. Really, that in the next game. So superstar signings, game changers, and swoops. So y'all can record this. You cannot record it. But the biggest thing I want everybody to hear me say right now, she's been awfully quiet. Have you ever seen someone vanish after running their mouth? That's what's happening now. Indiana just sent a statement that echoes across the entire league, and we're here to break it all down. All right, hoop queens, gather around because we've got some major tea brewing in the WNBA. Indiana Fever just landed Brianna Turner in free agency. Brianna Turner, let that sink in. But before we jump into the juicy details, take a quick second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stay in the loop with the hottest WNBA updates, expert breakdowns, and all the drama you won't find anywhere else. Now, let's dive in. But I think you're starting to get a little bit more shine from maybe the casual fan and maybe some folks who maybe didn't know or haven't seen Indiana as much as they've seen this year. So what's that part like, getting that little bit more attention and getting a little bit more shine and getting the recognition that the Indiana Fever just flipped free agency on its head. They didn't just sign players, they build a powerhouse. You ever play franchise mode in a video game and go wild in free agency? That's exactly what Indiana just did. They went all in, stacking their roster with experienced champions, gritty competitors, and players who bring both skill and swagger. This wasn't a passive off-season, it was a strategic takeover. Music, yes, you look good on me, feel good like a whole 360. Like I think I was talking to my wife about, I'm like, whoa, what if I go back to Indiana where I started? That'll be a crazy look where I'm at. First they landed Nadisha Howard, a 3-time WNBA champion and one of the most dominant defensive forces in the league. Howard doesn't just guard opponents, she erases them. Her ability to switch onto any player, protect the rim, and own the glass instantly elevates Indiana's defensive identity. Going for your services, Tanana. So why was this the right opportunity for you? I just feel like it was that the location for one, my kids are literally right up the road, and I spent a lot of time away from them. So that and the core that they have here now, and just kind of want to fit in and be another piece of the puzzle, and hopefully bring the energy dynamic and take us to a different level in the playoffs. Then came Danana Bonner, a sixes scoring machine who's a matchup nightmare for defenders. Bonner brings leadership, championship experience, and a clutch factor that makes the Fever a legitimate playoff threat. In Sophie Cunningham, the Indiana Fever are trading for a multidimensional wing capable of knocking down the 3-ball. Cunningham is starting to cook. Cunningham 3 is good. Cunningham from the corner, locking down defenders, several deflections, and this time she gets the steal and then one opportunity, and they weren't done. Sophie Cunningham, she's a walking spark plug, fearless, trash talking, and ready to fire up both her team and the crowd. She thrives in high-pressure moments and plays with a chip on her shoulder, something Indiana desperately needed. To top it off, they added Sydney Colson, a veteran presence with championship DNA who glues teams together behind the scenes. Colson's leadership in the locker room will be just as crucial as her play on the floor. This isn't just a collection of talent, it's a blueprint for success. The Fever didn't wait for greatness, they built it, and that's where you brought up the Fever. I think a lot what I've learned in my WNBA experience is pace of play trumps physicality. It trumps size. It can trump experience, because a lot of times when you're experienced, it's really like code word for your veteran, which is code word slow the pace. Yeah, so I feel like I know that's why you guys were so good for those years in 2018 and 2020, the years we won. That was our whole mantra, was pace, 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 pace. And what I see in Caitlyn, for months the media peddled the same tired narrative: nobody wants to play for Indiana, and the franchise was seen as a dead zone, a place elite players wouldn't even consider. Analysts dismissed the Fever, critics laughed off the idea of major signings, and Cheryl swoops, she practically scoffed at the notion that Indiana could attract top-tier free agents. To many, the Fever were just a struggling team with no real pull in the league face, unable to hit Jones. Another O board for Connecticut, better look for May off the mark. And yet here we are. Indiana didn't just land free agents, they pulled in some of the best available talent. The same team that supposedly couldn't attract stars just assembled one of the most dangerous rosters in the WNBA. Natasha Howard, Danana Bonner, Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson. These aren't just warm bodies, these are game changers, playoff-tested veterans, players who could have gone anywhere, but chose Indiana, and that alone shatters every false narrative about the Fever being an undesirable destination. Now the same analysts who wrote off Indiana are scrambling that nobody wants to play their take age like expired milk. The entire perception of the Fever just flipped overnight, and it all comes down to one undeniable reason: they built a culture that players want to be a part of. With Caitlyn Clark in town, a front office Mac making aggressive moves, and a roster that's suddenly one of the best in the league, Indiana isn't just back there a problem. Oh, it's a triple-double for Caitlyn. What a reaction by Kelsey. Well, how about the knowledgeable fans in this building? They burst out of their seats like it was a game winner. Let's stop dancing around it. This is the Caitlyn Clark effect in full force. Caitlyn Clark isn't just another rookie trying to find her place in the league. She's a franchise-altering force, the kind of player who doesn't just elevate her team but reshapes the entire WNBA landscape. The Indiana Fever, a team that had been struggling for years, suddenly finds itself as the most talked-about squad in the league. And that's no accident. Clark's arrival has turned the franchise into a destination, a team worth watching, and a team worth joining. So when you talk about the young girls that came in, Caitlyn Clark, Angel Reese, rookie class, really hyping up the league, coming from college to the WNBA. What has it done for you and the buzz of this entire league? I think it's so positive. I really do. I think it's a fun time to be a part of the WNBA. I truly believe that I think the skill and the talent has always been there, but now it's just the viewership. And so I give a big old clap to the rookie class. I think that's a lot to deal with when you're at that age and you have that many eyes on you. But I think they've done a great job in the league as well. I think the physicality and all that they're going to get used to, but I think especially Caitlyn Clark, she's been killing it. Sophie Cunningham, was she signed with Indiana? She didn't dance around the truth. Caitlyn Clark was a factor. Players aren't just hearing about Clark's ridiculous shooting range or flashy assists. They're hearing about her leadership, her competitive fire, and her ability to make her teammates better. That's the kind of player people want to be around. She's a magnet, attracting both talent and attention to a team that was once overlooked. I'm going to use her word. I want to see her continue to be a dog, because she is a dog. Here's what I'll say about Angel. I love the fact that she's just her right, and she says she's unapologetically Angel. She plays hard both ends of the floor. It doesn't matter what the score is. The thing that I think people question wasn't so much about her game or her rebounding, but it was the scoring and the fact that she is either averaging or almost. Averaging a double-double is pretty impressive to do from anybody, but in particular, a rookie. I just love how she's come into this league. She's embraced the bumps, the bruises. She's embraced the good with the bad. And I love watching her play because she plays hard the entire game. And let's talk about Cheryl swoops. She thought Clark was overhyped, just another college star who'd struggle for years before making an impact in the pros. But the reality, Clark is already leading the league in assists, dropping 40-point games like it's routine, and shifting the balance of power in the WNBA. Indiana isn't just getting better, they're becoming dangerous. And Clark is the reason why. Pinned down here, wide open, might need. Caitlyn Clark's impact extends far beyond the court. Sure, she's torching defenses and setting records, but what's happening outside the game is just as significant. She's driving record ticket sales, shattering TV viewership numbers, and making people care about the WNBA in a way they haven't before. Every Fever game feels like an event. Every matchup featuring Clark turns into must-watch TV. This isn't just a rising star, this is a movement, Suze, as it turns in the air for the gate. Oh, unbelievable. Before becoming one of the most electrifying players in WNBA history, Cheryl swoops was a sensation on that college stage, leading Texas Tech to the 1993 NCAA title with a record-setting 47-0 performance in the championship game. Cheryl swoops didn't see this coming. She assumed Clark would have to earn her place over time, that she'd struggle before proving herself. Instead, Clark walked into the league and immediately took it by storm. Now she's the biggest reason why Indiana Fever has become the go-to destination for top-tier talent players want to play with her coaches, want to build around her fans, want to see her. The old guard of the WNBA wasn't ready for this, but now they have no choice but to accept it. For years, the WNBA waited for a player who could change everything, someone who could bring the league mainstream attention, fill arenas, and create a real shift in the sport. The truth, that player is already here. Caitlyn Clark isn't waiting her turn. She's rewriting the rules of the game in real time. Last November, and the game didn't need saving. I don't know who came up with Caitlyn was a savior. That's not true. But what the game needed was a disruption in the economic marketplace, and that's what we're seeing here, and that's why it's been so fun. If you thought Indiana Fever was dangerous last season, just wait. Their projected starting five heading into next year is absolutely terrifying. This isn't just a good lineup, it's a championship caliber core with a blend of youth experience, shooting, defense, and leadership. The Fever aren't just building for the future, they're ready to win right now. Down that slows the whole team down her body and get to her spots of being able to affect. The He Cluck is coming off the masterful night and starts us off at the heart of it all. Caitlyn Clark, she's the face of the franchise, an elite playmaker and a scoring machine who can pull up from anywhere on the court. Next to her is Kelsey Mitchell, a shooter with instant offense, capable of taking over a game in an instant. Together, they create one of the deadliest backcourts in the league. And then there's Danana Boner, the veteran presence every contender needs, clutch, defensive-minded, and battle-tested in the playoffs. Absolutely just watching a Fever last season, just how young they were and also how they made it to the playoffs as a young group. You really don't see that a lot in WNBA. But I was just really proud of their work ethic, how they were so hungry and they passionate about winning games and stuff. They had each other, but they trust each other out there. And that's the type of the front court is just as lethal. Nadisha Howard brings toughness, physicality, and championship experience, making her the enforcer this team needs. And anchoring the paint, Aaliyah Boston, a dominant force on both ends of the floor, a defensive anchor, and a future Hall of Famer in the making. This lineup has an all-shooting defense leadership championship. None the rest of the league better take notice, because Indiana isn't coming to compete, they're coming to take over. Picked up by Barnes, she drives right around her right baseline, spinner in the lane, in and out and back in applause against swoops. How long? It wasn't that long ago that Cheryl swoops was all over the media loudly doubting Caitlyn Clark and the Indiana Fever she dismissed. Clark's impact underestimated her ability to adjust to the WNBA and made it clear that she wasn't buying into the hype. But now, dead silence during a recent broadcast. Commentators were showering Clark with praise, marveling at her dominance on the court. And swoops, she sat there in complete silence for an entire minute, 60 full seconds of awkward, uncomfortable quiet, no rebuttal, no counterpoint, no acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, she got it wrong. The woman who had so much to say before the season suddenly had nothing left to offer. Hey, what's up, hon? It's your girls throwing out the first here to cheer on the Astros. Yo, we got to get it done tonight. Let's go strong. And then came the most suspicious moment of all, when Indiana faced off against Dallas, a game that would have forced swoops to watch Clark dismantle a team live on air. She was mysteriously absent from the broadcast, pulled from commentary. Coincidence? Unlikely. When the receipts start piling up, when the takes start aging like spoiled milk, it gets harder and harder to show your face. And right now, Swoop seems to have disappeared, just as Clark is proving every one of her doubters wrong. Music. When I look back at a lot of first right that I've done and I've been able to do in my career, first player, sign first player to have a kid in the WNBA and come back. The truth is, WNBA veterans like Cheryl swoops aren't necessarily mad at Caitlyn Clark's game. They're mad because she didn't wait her turn. The league has always had an unspoken hierarchy. Rookies earn their stripes, pay their dues, and slowly climb the ladder before being anointed as superstars. Clark, however, didn't follow that script. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't wait for a nod of approval. She walked into the league with the confidence of a champion and played like she belonged from day one. She didn't beg for respect. She took it, and for some people, that's a tough pill to swallow. Her impact goes beyond the court. She's dominating headlines, bringing in record-breaking viewership, and changing how people perceive the WNBA. That kind of influence shifts power, and power shifts make people uncomfortable. When veterans spent years grinding without the same level of attention, it's easy to see why Clark's rise stings. 17 outside of Mitchell, but she's open and splash it on 3 more. Clark is forcing a new era in the WNBA. She's making the game bigger, attracting new fans, and rewriting the league's status quo. For the old heads who thought they had control, it's a wake-up call that WNBA is no longer operating under the same rules that governed the past. Clark's arrival signals something undeniable. The league is evolving, and she's the face of that change, whether the veterans like it or not. Last November, and the game didn't need saving. I don't know who came up with Caitlyn was a savior. That's not true. But what the game needed was a disruption in the economic marketplace, and that's what we're seeing here. And that's why it's been so fun. If Clark keeps up this trajectory, she's on an MVP path sooner than expected. The league's old guard might not want to admit, but Clark is already playing at an elite level. The numbers speak for themselves. Her scoring, her playmaking, her impact on winning. She's not just a great rookie, she's a game changer in real time. And if Indiana wins big this season, the meltdown from her haters is going to be legendary. 17 outside of Mitchell. But she's open and splashes on 3 more plying. Clark has 6 assists, has set the record. McTalk might feel premature to some, but let's be real, Clark is already proving she belongs in the conversation. If she keeps elevating her team and putting up elite numbers, there's no reason she won't be in serious contention. And if that happens, the WNBA might just have to prepare for a new face of the league much sooner than they expected. You women out there, I pity, man. Hey, LeBron, you are 100% right on these girls hating on Caitlyn Clark. Y'all petty girls, I expect men to be petty. Cause we're the most insect group in the world, you are y'all should be thanking that girl for getting y'all ass private charters, all the money and visibility she bring into the Jeff Emba. Don't be petted like dudes. Listen what she's accomplished. Get her flowers. There you have the fever. Just flip the league on its head. Cheryl swoops exposed Caitlyn Clark thriving the WNBA forever change. What do you think? Did Indiana just secure their spot as the next dynasty? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And before you go, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Stay tuned for more hard-hitting WNBA takes, and we'll catch you in the next one.